For anime manga products, specifically Berserk, check out shopkenchi.com. I don't have a discount code yet, I'm working on it, but check it out. Let me know what you think of it. Buy something if you like them. If you don't, you're not inclined to, just let you know. It's got some pretty cool merch. Check it out. See ya. Enjoy the video. I've kind of held off on making a top 10 protagonist list for a long time, and the reason for that is that I have a lot of manga left to read where I know the main characters of that manga or anime are going to be on my top 10 list, but I just have not had the time to check out this series. But I guess today I just bit the bullet and said I was going to make this video because I honestly just wanted to share my opinion on the best protagonists, and seeing that I will probably not be reading any new manga for the foreseeable future due to a lack of time and responsibilities, I thought for now it would be cool just to share my top 10 main characters based on the manga I have currently read. I do say manga, but I do include anime as well, so keep that in mind. These are 10 characters I regard highly in terms of how their character is written, and I'm mainly categorizing them in this list based on how they're written and based on just how much I love them as a character, because I tend to love well-written characters and characters that affect me emotionally, as well as characters that are just really cool. Some honorable mentions from series that I have not seen that I think have potential to bring their main characters onto this list is Goodnight Punpun, Jojo's of any part, because I don't know which part really has the best main character. I'm not even gonna say Gintama because just seeing that series pisses me off at this point, so not Gintama. I can't believe I have to say this, but these 10 are the elite main characters in my opinion, so if you don't see your favorite protagonist on this list, don't take offense, because it just means that they are not 10 out of 10 out of 10s for me. It does not mean that I don't like them, it just means that they are not, again, 10 out of 10 out of 10s, like the characters on this list in my opinion are. Obviously a lot of you will disagree with some of the picks because I have a few controversial ones on here, but regardless, let's get into it with number 10, which is going to be Shin from Kingdom. Shin is a character that starts off very shonen-like despite being in a seinen series. Now Kingdom does seem sort of like a shonen series at face value. Even though it is about war, there are a lot of shonen elements to it, like its main character, but especially from the recent chapters and the, I guess, post-West Sao arc, Shin has become a character that I've personally enjoyed seeing grow and develop and mature into who he is supposed to be at the end of the story, which is foreshadowed in chapter 1. Based on that alone, I can comfortably say that Shin will move up the list because he has so much more to go, and Kingdom still has probably like 400 to 500 chapters to go. It might honestly have that many chapters left, it might have less, it might have more, but Shin's character is nowhere near finished, and being at number 10 on this list without even having your character finished is really impressive, to say the least. Especially in a series with so many incredible characters like Kingdom, it's quite difficult to make it this high on the list, but I feel like he's developed very well as a leader in his story, and he's a very enjoyable character to watch grow, and a lot of his fights are absolutely amazing. So number 10 is Shin from Kingdom. Number 9, for very similar reasons, is Ippo from Hajime no Ippo. Yes, Ippo is kind of a wuss character, he kind of chickens out a lot of situations, but it's for the way he's written as a character that I put him at number 9 on this list, not necessarily because of his personality, as I don't really like his personality that much, which is the one thing I will say needs improvement, but I think that's what makes Ippo such a special character. Even though he's a gentle personality, he still gets into boxing and he still beats the shit out of some people. And seeing his character grow from the beginning of the story to where it's currently ongoing is amazing, and continuing to see him grow is getting better and better by the chapter. Certain events in the story make Ippo even better than number 9 possibly, but I do keep him there because some parts are kind of annoying just seeing him wandering around and doing nothing. But the introspectiveness we get into his character and really going deep inside of his mind, seeing what he's thinking at all times, especially during the fights, is something special to say the least. Plus, being such a long story, there is a lot of time invested in the main character, and I'm all for that. So number 9 is Ippo from Hajime no Ippo. Number 8 is a recent addition from a series I just finished reading, is Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul and Tokyo Ghoul Re. A lot of people have Kaneki around their top 3. For me, he's personally not that high. I love how deep we go into his character. I love the way the art panels are drawn out. I love how his character is portrayed and his development throughout the story. the tragedy behind his character, all phenomenal. The reason I don't have him somewhere in my top 3, which he definitely did have the potential to be in, is because I feel like his character can get repetitive at times, especially with how many times he goes into this dream world where Rize is just waiting for him somehow. It almost seems like every conflict, every internal conflict that Kaneki has is solved by him going into this dream world and coming out with more power or more motivation to do what he was supposed to do in the first place. He takes a lot of L's throughout the story, which, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy for the main character. But bro, you've got to take some W's once in a while. This man Kaneki keeps taking L's until the end of the story. Regardless, he's a perfect example of how to write a tragic character. His development is phenomenal. His character is not as inconsistent as his hair color, but he certainly does have his ups and downs. But his ups do make him really, really freaking good, which is why he's number 8 on the list. So at number 8, we have Ken Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul and Tokyo Ghoul Re. Number 7 is going to be one that a lot of people think should be much higher on the list, but which I do not have much higher on the list. That is Thorfinn from Vinland Saga. Thorfinn, let's say, end of Vinland Saga story, could 100% be my 3rd favorite protagonist. The only thing is that right now I think his character is very flawed. I shouldn't say very flawed. I should say there are flaws to his character and things that I think he needs to improve. Obviously, don't get me wrong, he's number 7, which is really high to be on this protagonist list. There are some things I would like to see improved from his character, specifically being his pacifistic attitude. I don't really like that entirely. I think they should fix that up a little bit. Change him from going entirely in the direction of no fighting, because to be realistic, in his era, the Viking era, it doesn't really seem appropriate to pursue something like that. Well, it makes sense, but I just feel like his character needs to have more conflict, as he hasn't had conflict in this final arc, the Vinland arc. Regardless, there isn't much I need to say about Thorfinn because he is already regarded as one of the greatest protagonists out there. His development is next to unmatched. Him in the prologue arc is so enjoyable to see. His revenge story is amazing, but what really makes him is the farmland arc, where he develops and changes through becoming a slave, and the certain experiences he goes through are truly one of a kind. So yes, Thorfinn does have the potential to be top 3, but for now he's at number 7, and I think that's where he's going to stay unless the story picks up a little bit in pace, which, to be honest, it kind of has. So I may have to move Thorfinn up to 6 or 5 eventually, and by eventually I mean pretty soon. But for now, at number 7 is Thorfinn from Vinland Saga. Number 6 is Eren from Attack on Titan. Here we go. I haven't talked about Attack on Titan in a long time. People are wondering what's going on. Where are the Attack on Titan videos? Eren's number 6 on my protagonist list. I still do think he's one of the best protagonists out there. One of the best shonen protagonists out there for sure. I mean, there isn't much I need to say. We see Eren from the beginning of where everything starts. He's one of the few characters where we quite literally start with him as a child. Thorfinn's another example of this, but some characters, like for example Guts, we don't see them. We get backstories of what happened to them in the past. Eren, we get to see experience crazy things from childhood all the way to the end of the story. And while the ending may be flawed in some regards, the experiences this character goes through and the way he's forced to handle certain situations, the lessons he learns, the people he loses, the struggles he has, the decisions he has to make, the positions he's forced into. I mean, I can go on and on and on about Eren's character and how much I love him. He's a tragic character written right. He's a lot like Kaneki. I just have him ahead of Kaneki because I personally like Eren's character more. I feel like there's more originality to the way he overcomes his conflicts, and I think that the way he has to battle his inner monster is much more appealing to me than a character like Kaneki. Both are obviously incredible. I still have Eren ahead of him. I think he's probably the best example, besides who's probably going to be number 1 based on my channel. I definitely do think Eren is one of a kind, and I think number 6 is a great spot for him. So number 6, Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan. Number 5 is a toss-up between 3 characters. I originally had Takahashi from Real, but now it's Takahashi, Tagawa, and Nomiya from Real. All 3 of these characters are the 3 protagonists of the story. Yes, 3 protagonists. You can say there's always supposed to be 1 protagonist, but there's quite literally 3 protagonists in this story. It's hard for me to explain why I love these characters so much. It's more so you gotta read the story to understand why I love them so much, but the events and the experiences that they go through are real. You're dealing with characters here that have lost pretty much parts of their lives that, well, made up their lives in general. You see a character like Tagawa, who's always wanted to be a sprinter, but was unfortunately unable to become one because of the fact that he was thrown into a situation where he was forced to have his leg cut off. He had osteosarcoma, and that was that. If a character like Takahashi wanted to pursue a basketball career, a high schooler who is a jerk and who is sort of full of himself loses his ability to walk and to feel anything from below his waist. And it's these experiences, these extreme experiences, that force these characters to learn what it really means to live. Nomiya, the character I haven't yet given an example of, doesn't get disabled himself, but causes another girl to get disabled, and he lives with this burden for the rest of his life pretty much, and it's about him getting over that as well as him living with this passion. It's such a touching and heartwarming and heartbreaking story. Almost every chapter makes you tear up in some way. It's ridiculous how emotional this manga made me, and it's mainly tied to these three main characters and the way we see them experience things and seeing them grow. Real by Takahiko Inoue is something, it's I can't even put it into words, man. Some of Inoue's works, all of Inoue's works, excuse me, are without question some of the greatest literature I've ever seen. Real, Vagabond. I haven't seen Slam Dunk yet, but I need to. Inoue, the way he writes characters, the way he writes emotional moments, next to unmatched. Probably unmatched, actually. So at number 5, we have Takahashi, Nomiya, Tagawa from Real. Number 4 is Alan Walker from The Gray Man. Some of you may be like, who the hell is this guy? Well, you haven't seen the greatest shonen out there. You haven't seen the most underrated shonen out there, because Alan Walker is a character that experiences so many different things. In a story, you would think he wouldn't really experience these kind of obstacles, because typically of shonen, the obstacles tend to be different. But The Gray Man is, well, different, to say the least. Again, I can't really put it into words. It's mostly just the things he goes through and the internal conflicts he has, and not being overtaken by what's inside of him. Hint, hint to the people who have seen The Gray Man. It's also about a character who's forced to move forward, who's forced into certain situations, and who has no other option but to continue moving forward and continue chasing life and trying to protect what he still has left, because for most characters that is their main goal. But for Alan, he's genuinely thrown into situations where he can't really do that. I recently made a video on Alan, going a bit deeper into why I love him so much as a character, but maybe it's just the way Hoshino draws her panels. It just makes Alan's character so much more impactful, especially when decisive moments are met. I also love his persona and his power, and how it ties into his persona of the Crown Clown, how he's forced to put on a mask so many times, become something he isn't in order to protect who he loves. And I was blown away for a shonen series to create a character like this. It was truly stunning, and I really do think Alan is one of, if not the most underrated and underappreciated protagonist in the anime and manga genre. It's sad to say the least, but for the people who do acknowledge his greatness, I think you get why I have him so high on this list. Number 4 is Alan Walker from The Gray Man. Number 3 may shock a few people, seeing how I have this character ahead of so many other great characters on the list. And guess what? It's from an anime-only series. Number 3 is Lelouch from Code Geass. Maybe because I love revolution stories, maybe because I love political stories, maybe because I love chess implemented into stories, I love Lelouch. So where do I even start with Lelouch's character? There's so much depth to him. The way he puts on the mask in order to do certain things, the character he creates, the character of Zero that he creates, which is supposed to be a warrior of justice. The way he's contrasted to different characters in the story, like Suzaku, like his father Charles, the losses and the victories he has, his intellect, his incredible decision making, and the way he formulates an army in order to take down his father, and not to mention the plot twists behind his character, the power of Geass and how it ties into him later on towards the end of the story, and probably best of all, the conclusion of his character. I'm not gonna spoil what happens with Lelouch, but the way he ties Zero into the ending of the story, how he ties himself, Nanali, Suzaku, everyone that was in the story from the beginning into the ending, into the conclusion, how he pulls it all together by himself, it's honestly incredible. There's a reason why people say Lelouch carries Code Geass, why they would put him in S tier and pretty much every other character in like B to D tier. He's just different, man. He's honestly just different. There's a reason I have him at number 3. I love political revolutionary stories, and I love that rebellious character, and Lelouch is the perfect example of how to write a rebellious character. I think he has some of the best development ever. His development isn't a drastic change, it's more so learning lessons about the world that he lives in and forcing to sacrifice certain things that he had not planned to sacrifice in the first place. Just watch Code Geass if you haven't already. I know it's not for some people, but for me, Lelouch is number 3, and he's there to stay for a good amount of time. Number 3, Lelouch v Britannia from Code Geass. Number 2 and 1 should be pretty obvious. Boruto and Kirito are 2 of the greatest. I'm not going to make that joke, don't worry. I've seen so many people make that joke already, I'm not doing it again, man. Number 2 is Musashi from Vagabond, and number 1 is Guts from Berserk. Those are my top 10 protagonists. I did go pretty in-depth with each and every one of them, which is why this video is extremely long, but I hope you did enjoy the video nonetheless, and let me know your top 10 protagonists in the description below, because yes, the description is for your own opinion, not to flame the person making the video.